It's a personal point of pride for me how often my sermons begin with Beyoncé. So tonight is no different. If you, like me, watched the Grammys this weekend and have been following along with Beyoncé's story, you too had like a meaningful spiritual moment on Sunday evening. For those who don't know, Beyoncé, obviously amazing, but wildly talented, wildly wealthy, an amazing musician, wildly famous, and she has never once won Album of the Year, before Sunday, even for Lemonade, which has been known, has now been called like the best album in 100 years, didn't get it for it. And recently she even changed genres from R&B to pop, changed over into country, and everyone was sort of like waited with bated breath, like, is it gonna happen? Like, is she actually gonna win a Grammy for Best Country Album as the first Black female artist to ever win it? And she did. She did. She also won Album of the Year for the first time ever, and there was not a dry eye in the stadium, it looked like, the theater, and I certainly did not have a dry eye. And then in her acceptance speech, she said the following: I think sometimes genre is a cold word to keep us in our place as artists, and just want to encourage people to do what they're passionate about and to stay persistent. That genre is a cold word. Beyoncé has all of the money and fame she could possibly want, and yet people were bounding her in a particular box, saying, this is who you are, and you better stay in your lane. And she said, absolutely not. I am gonna do what I want, when I want, and the world is gonna say, okay. In fact, the world is gonna celebrate that. She broke out of a box that others were putting her in. In this week's Torah portion, the Israelites break out of their box. For hundreds of years, they were known as slaves. That was their identity. They knew exactly what each day was going to bring. They knew exactly what they were going to do. They knew exactly what was expected of them. And now suddenly they're free. They're free, and they get to the Red Sea. And as the story goes, Moses lifts his hands, the ocean splits, and they walk through on dry land. And they sing this song of freedom, this song of excitement, this song of joy. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you, God, right? A song of awe, like how is it possible that this could happen? And then there's this other line that we sang earlier, Ozi v'zimrat ya, Vayahilu Yeshua, thank you, I knew I had to write it down. Ozi v'zimrat ya, Vayahilu Yeshua. God is my rock and my song, and will be my salvation, will be my deliverance. On like the surface level, it feels like it's just as celebratory as Mi Chamocha, but you only need to look a little bit deeper to see that like maybe there's something else there, right? Why are the Israelites saying, God is my strength and my song and will be my salvation? Weren't they just saved? Weren't they just delivered? Like it should have been the past tense, like God did it. God was my salvation. But it's not. This line, to me, reads a little bit like a plea. God will be my rock. God maybe could be my song. Is it possible that God could deliver me? Our commentators, and I agree, realize from this line and others that the Israelites are happy to be free, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit of nervousness that comes with being free. There's nervousness with getting taken out of your box, taken out of your identity. One more time, they knew exactly what to do each and every day. They knew what is expected of them. They knew who was going to be responsible for them. And here they are with the world in front of them, with not knowing who is leading them. They just saw this guy Moses for like the first time, and he's talking about a God that they don't know, and they don't know where they're headed, right? They say a promised land, but what does that mean? And so while they're walking on dry land, that land, it's a little mushy. It's a little muddy. It's a little unsure. It's a little scary. It's really scary. And so what do we do when we don't know what's in front of us and we're pretty scared? A Israeli poet, Yehuda Amichai, writes a pretty awesome poem about this moment, or that includes this moment, called Miracles. I'm going to read the beginning for you now, and then I'll read more of it later. He says, this is Miracles. From a distance, everything looks like a miracle. But up close, even a miracle doesn't look like that. Even someone who crossed the Red Sea when it split saw only the sweating back of the man in front of him and the swaying of his big thighs. Or at best, in a hasty glance to one side, fish in a riot of colors inside the wall of water, as in a marine observatory behind panels of glass. Even when the Israelites are surrounded by miracle, they can't see it. They can't see it because of their scared, because of their fear, because of their anxiety. All the more so when we feel like miracle is really far from us. How can we possibly see it? I know from speaking with many of you this week and last week, I know from actually asking just how are you outside in the lobby just now during Oneg, that miracle is feeling pretty far from many of us. That uncertainty is feeling pretty present, and the unknown is feeling pretty palpable. Now I want to be clear. If for you, miracle is abundant in this moment, thank God. Thank God that is your experience right now. And I hope that you are recognizing it. I hope you are celebrating it. I hope you are feeling that joy. For those of us who are not feeling that way, perhaps we can learn a little bit from our Israelites and from this song, Ozi v'zimrat Yah, God is my strength, God is my song, God will be my deliverance, of how maybe we could get to a place or create a place in which miracle feels more tangible. So I want to continue the poem. I'm going to start from the beginning in case you missed it. From a distance, everything looks like a miracle, but up close, even a miracle doesn't look like that. Even someone who crossed the Red Sea when it split saw only the sweating back of the man in front of him and the swaying of his big thighs, or at best, in a hasty glance to one side, fish in a riot of colors inside the wall of water, as in a marine observatory behind panels of glass. The real miracles, Amihai continues, happen at the next table of a restaurant in Albuquerque. Two women sat there, one with a diagonal zipper, altogether lovely, and the other said, I kept it together and didn't cry. And after, in the red corridors of the foreign hotel, I saw boys and girls who held in their arms tiny children born of them, and they held sweet little dolls. Where is it that we can find the miracle when it feels so far, when we feel so scared, when life feels so uncertain? It's in people. It's in sitting down with someone and being able to say, I did it. I was so strong I didn't cry. Or even better, sitting down with someone and crying. It's being able to see parents with their children, with their dolls, and being able to realize that l'dor v'dor, generation to generation, there has been hardship, and we are one piece of that story. And just like our ancestors before us, we too will be resilient. It's in our relationships with one another. And I'll give two examples of how perhaps you could bring strength and song into your life in this moment. Also, post-Grammys, I tend to listen to all of the music that I hadn't listened to all year. And so the other morning, I put on Chapel Roan to empty the dishwasher. And my daughter, my 2.5-year-old daughter, came into the kitchen, and she does this like little belly dance. It's very cute. And she said, "You dance with me, Mommy?" And so we put the dishes away, and we danced together. And then my husband joined us, and the three of us danced together. And it was this little moment of bliss, of music uplifting our souls. There was no option but to dance and to be together as a family. Another moment happened this week, or a lot of you actually, as I've been speaking to you this week, have asked, I want to do good. Like, I am overwhelmed and I don't know what else to do, and I want to make the world better. Like, how can I do good? What can I do? Just so you know, many of you got a newsletter this week that's literally entitled, Do Good. I curate it. Look at that. So there's volunteer opportunities there. There's advocacy opportunities there. There's lots of ways that you can do good at Washington Hebrew. I'm actually going to highlight one that has nothing to do with us. I talked to someone today who is part of an organization or a volunteer for an organization called Lasagna Love. Does anyone know this? Yeah, okay, people know about it. I think it's amazing. So you make a lasagna, like you can just make a lasagna and ask to volunteer, and then anyone can request a lasagna to be brought to them. So you don't have to be, I mean, sometimes it's people who don't have enough money to create dinner for themselves that evening, and that's beautiful and wonderful, and they should get a lasagna. But it can also be people who are recovering from illness, or as this person who I was talking to said, or people who are going to give birth in 6 weeks and have 2 other children. Maybe you want us to lasagna, But I imagined the real joy, the real miracle of being in a kitchen and putting something together and creating something, and then being able to go and deliver it to someone and look at someone in the eye and say, here, this is for you. I've provided this for you, and having someone say thank you. And that relationship, when we're hearing so much of statistics and numbers and things like that, what's going to save us, what's going to be our miracle, is that interaction, the interaction with one another. And if you are itching to do this, you can do it right here. We have the ability to have authentic, meaningful relationships right here in this room with the people next to us. Being able to come here and ask how are you, and talk about our jobs because we're in DC, and do all of those things, but also to really ask, how are you? To really see one another, to really understand where people are at, to really be able to say things like, man, I was so strong, I held it together, or wow, I was so strong, I didn't hold it together. Being able to have those types of conversations with one another, that is the miracle that we can actually create. We can raise our voices in song. We can raise our voices in strength. We can raise our voices in community. We can raise our voices and create the miracles that we need. Shabbat Shalom.
Zimrat